My name is Sinead Mac Manus. I run a digital coaching and training company. So basically back in 2007, I was in a really, really boring job. We all know what those are like. And I had a lot of time on my hands. So I spent most of my day in my office on the internet. I got really inspired by watching, and reading about a lot of people around the world who seem to be doing really interesting things. And I read, the book that you guys have probably all read, Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Workweek. And I think there's a lot of stuff in there that's, like you can take it or leave it. But I think the essence of it is very, very interesting. It's like, why do useless work when we can actually do something that frees up our time, or meaningful work that means we can get out in the world and do more interesting things? And I think that's just something that has resonated with me since I read the book in 2008. So, inspired by Tim Ferriss and Leah Woodward, who for me is the queen, she's great, of location independence, I thought, I want to do this. Other people are doing it, I can do it too. So I was working at the time, as I said, in this boring job, but I was also working freelance. I was an arts consultant. So the majority of my work I could do online. So I thought, what if I take my computer and go work somewhere in the world? So I thought Asia, and I thought, what if I need to get back for meetings and things like that? So I thought, let's go somewhere in Europe. And I wanted to go somewhere warm. So this is a story on how not to pick somewhere to live. So basically, I read a story in The Guardian about 10 nice beach places in Europe. I literally packed up and went to live for a year in a small beach town in the south of Spain. Please do not do what I do. It was very, very cool, like everything is for the first few months, and then it gets really boring. So now I live what I call a part-time location-independent life. So I have definitely a base here in the UK, but I try to spend every winter and other longer periods during the year abroad. So for me, this is a more sustainable thing, and it's something that suits my lifestyle. So that's why I wanted to share 5 lessons. So the first one is about this difference between location independence and digital nomadism. So if you think of a digital nomad, for me, I have the picture, can you have the picture in your head of the person on a beach, like in a bikini with a laptop, and the sun is shining, maybe there's a cocktail beside them. As somebody who lived in a beach town, if you've ever taken your laptop to the beach, it's a really bad idea. You get a lot of sand in it. You can't see the screen, seriously. When I lived in Spain, I had to work indoors all the time. There was no laptop on the beach. So it's a nice idea, but it's pretty hard to do. Also, when you do work abroad, depending on where your clients are, it can be quite challenging, because we forget that living in somewhere like London, where there's so many opportunities, that when you go work somewhere else, especially if you're far away, like I was in India this winter, so I was very far away from my clients. And it was really, really difficult to do stuff. So it was a big learning curve for me about it is quite difficult, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So for me, instead of the digital nomadism, what I'm really interested in doing is how can we build flexible, location-independent businesses that mean you may never, ever leave the UK. You may never leave your house. That doesn't matter. But how can we build these businesses that are designed to really suit what our lives are? So whatever that is for you. So for example, as a mom, maybe you want to be more flexible and you want to do some work at home. Maybe you have, you want to go visit people down the country, or you maybe want to live in a city for parts of the year, or whatever it is, whatever your lifestyle is. For me, I think this is really interesting that we can design our businesses to suit our life. So it's not all about grabbing your laptop and go traveling around Asia for 6 years with the sun, and the cocktails and things like that. I think there's something more tangible that most of us can probably get our head around, because the idea of this digital nomadism is quite, it can be a tough one to think. It's not. I don't think it's for everybody. So I want to maybe share some of the ideas about how we can think of this in a slightly different way. So the idea about building a minimal viable business. So it's about, don't build your app or your website or your massive web application with everything you ever think a customer will need. Get to what the smallest unit that you can think is possible that the market will bear. Get it out to the market and see what happens. Test something. And I think this is really applicable to small businesses and building a location-independent business. It's not about stopping your job and then building this massive business plan and then having this big launch, and guess what? Nobody comes. Think about what's the smallest unit, what is the thing you can sell, getting it out there as quickly as possible into the market and testing something. So for me, I think it was key about moving to working for myself is about doing this while I still had a salary. So, the first time I started working for myself was 2006. But I had a full-time job at the time, and I built up my freelance clients on the side. So yes, it was hard work. It involved evenings and weekends, but it meant that I could build up that client base while I was still working and still had the, that salary as well. And I've done this for all of my sort of career shifts over the last sort of 12 years. So this idea about getting to a minimum viable business. And I think the wonderful thing now with technology and digital is that we can get there a lot quicker. So you can have an idea tonight for a business, and you can have a WordPress website set up tomorrow. You can get your social media going, so you can get out there and start marketing. So it's really, really easy to launch a business compared to, I don't know, say 10 years ago, where you may have to pay £5,000 for a website or something like that. So there's a lot of really tangible things you can do to get going quickly and to get out into the marketplace. So the next thing I wanted to throw out there, since 2006, I've been what I suppose you would call on the internet a minimalist, which is I don't buy new things. And it was a really interesting experiment, and I decided to continue it on. So to this day, I don't buy shoes and handbags and clothes and da-da-da. My point is, I can live in London in a Zone 1 flat and not have a very large salary. So for me, money is a very interesting concept. So when you have a salary and you earn a certain amount per month, it can be very difficult to let that go. So my advice to you, if you're thinking about traveling down this path, which is a great path, is to start to see where you can start to free up some of that money and that time. So basically, you start to live a little bit more simply, a little bit more minimally, and this can really, really help with making that jump to maybe going down to 4 days a week or 3 days a week as you're building something on the side. And I call it the no-risk way to freelancing. That's definitely something that worked for me. The best place to find top information is the locationindependence.com website. So Leah has put together some of the best free resources on really how to do this, from everything from setting up a website to how to market yourself to how to come up with products and services that can basically work online. It's really, really comprehensive, and there's lots and lots of free information out there. The next thing I wanted to just say quickly is about making something awesome. So if you follow, which you probably do, the digital nomad, location independence world, you'll see a lot of people doing absolutely rubbish work, and I think it's a real problem. So I'm really into how we can create meaningful work and really create something of value that people actually want, rather than just creating something that will bring in some cash just so we can go sit on a beach somewhere. That for me is not what life is about. So as people who are building businesses, location independence or otherwise, how can you take the road less traveled and not the traditional route of, you go to college, you get a job, you retire, and then you die. So how can we shake things up? How can we do life a little bit differently? And I wanted to just share that with you because it's not easy. So I would encourage you to embrace your inner entrepreneur and to build your location independent business. And I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much all for listening.